everyone. Welcome. It's 1:30, so we're going to start just on time. My name is Cindy Burrow. I am the owner of Strategic Education Solutions, and James and I and our team are working on a grant for the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities that is focused on sexual assault prevention and response for people with IDD. And the work that James is going to talk about today comes out of that grant project. Just a quick note about format. The idea behind our project and this session is the stage belongs to people with IDD. And that means it's spontaneous, it's from the heart, and I might jump in with a prompt every now and then, but for the most part, you're going to hear James talk about his life and his story and how it's led to the work we're doing. And by the same token, we would love for you to jump in with questions or comments. I mean, we'll definitely save time for Q&A, but if something comes up while James is talking, if you want more information, feel free to just jump in and we'll take questions on the go. So without further ado, this is James Meadours, and he's been working in the self-advocacy movement for over 30 years. Sorry to date you there, James.
That's okay.
But we're the same age, so that's okay for me to say. And he's going to start by telling you a little bit more about himself.
Good afternoon. Oh gosh, he could do much better than that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I remember one time I spoke in Washington, D.C., and it was a big conference, about 500 people. I said, good morning. What's that silence? I said again, good morning. What's this silence? And one of my friends stood up and said, people up north do not say good morning out loud. Welcome to Washington, D.C. I hope you have a chance to learn something new and also to bring the information back to help to the persons you're supporting and to help to overcome their experience who deal with sexual assault. One of the things that's important is amplify voices by storytelling. Like for example, when I decided to devote my life on sexual assault issues, I didn't have a guide or a path to follow because I was like one of the first few people to come out and share their experience who've been hurt this way. And maybe some of you guys know who Sidney Poitier is. He's a famous movie star back in the day because when he was an African American actor, he didn't have no one to follow, no leaders, no one to inspire him to be who he is. But with time and experience, he became a better actor. As me, like myself, I didn't have no one to follow to talk about sexual assault because I remember those early days, hardly anyone take anyone serious about this topic. But over time and years and decades, we get more and more people to talk about their own sexual assault experience. And also to learn and to peers to do more like a peer-to-peer stuff. Help survivors to another survivor to talk about what happened to them. Because the bottom line is that it is not the person's fault. Because sometimes people put the guilt onto us, and sometimes we need to have a peer who deal the same experience to talk about what happened to them, and they sometimes understand more about each other and how we could support one another. And also sometimes you feel lonely and isolation. What I mean with that is sometimes, like I said, as a survivor, I was very lonely at the time because in my early sexual assault, I had no one to talk to. I didn't have the confidence to talk to a teacher or even my parents because I was afraid they did not believe me, or even the school principal because I was in a segregated school setting in Houston, Texas. I was too afraid to do something about it. But every time people say like they never hit twice, but years later, decades later, another lightning storm hit and hit the same spot towards me. That time, I decided to be assertive about being hurt by sexual assault. I stand up for myself, what I believe is right, and to empower myself to do something about it. And I was very lucky to have a sane nurse help me. I'm sorry about all those alphabet soups. Sane nurse is a sexual assault nurse examiner, and she helped me to talk to me what happened to me. And for me, as a survivor, I was a strong self-advocate leader, and I told my seniors about it. I told Miss Wanda, that's her name, was that I'm ready to tackle the word about sexual assault. But instead, she said, James, whoa, you need to take some time to recover before you change the world. Say, okay, and I said, when you know when it's the right time. You say, when you know it's a good time, when you start speaking out about it. And also to learn from others, because a colleague of mine, me and Cynthia know, is we learn from each other. Like I have a friend named Leanne. And Leanne told me her experience as a survivor of sexual assault. And me and her became great friends, a great partner, and also to talk about this issue from a female perspective to a male perspective, to educate the system for people with disabilities.
James, do you want to mention about young people in the movement?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia.
You are welcome.
One of the things that's very important is that I'm a guy who's 57, gonna be 57 years old this year. I felt like we need to get young people with IDD to be involved with this in a self-advocacy movement, because when I was their age back then, they have different dreams, hopes, and aspirations, what they want in life. Because a lot of things are different today from my high school experience. Like yesterday when I caught the bus to come here from San Antonio to Austin, I was at the public bus station where all the buses come and pick up passengers. And I was interested to see a school teacher took the time to teach her students about how to catch the public transportation, how to catch the bus. And I told her, that's really great, because their wants and needs are different from mine when I was their school age a long time ago. They need to be the leaders of the movement, of the self-advocacy movement, and also go to the Capitol to raise their issues, because my issues are different from mine to theirs. Maybe it's similar, but they need to hear the younger generation. What is seeing her? Self-advocates use their smartphones and phones to make videos. For me, I use a lot of video on my Facebook page to share my thoughts and ideals, how we need to fix the system, and also share my personal opinion about issues important in Texas. Like, we have so many institutions or people in the waiting list who are waiting for services, and also talk about prevention to help us to not be afraid to talk about sexual assault, to get the peer support they need to be able to recover from their own experience. And also talk about healthy relationships, because some people do not want to talk about, I'm going to say it, a lot of people do not want to talk about sex, because we need to talk about healthy relationships, because if people don't talk about sexuality or healthy relationship, sexual healthy relationships, how people know that it's okay not to say, you could say no, but sometimes people take advantage of that person and they didn't have the power to say no and let people take over you. They need to be educate people about healthy relationships, what is good and sometimes what is bad, and also empower those who do not want to be taken advantage. And also talk about recovery. Like early on, I talked about my sexual assault nurse examiner to help to be able to recover from their personal experience. We need to help them to be able to recover from it. Like I said, like it hit multiple times in my life, and to realize that I could got the help when I was much younger, and no one talked about male who been sexual assault. No one did. And over time, and the last decade and a half, people are start talking about it. Like the issues that happened in Penn State University, to the I can't say the word now. But also people who are to a very cool video I'm going to refer you to watch. It's called 1 in 6 video. And it's really cool because they have 6 men and they have 6 females read the story. And the thing that was very important was that the ladies read the story. They did not know it was a male survivor or a female survivor until that day when those two meet each other. And that was so powerful because a lot of people watched that video. It's now over 400 million people watched this video.
James, do you mind talking just briefly about bias?
Yes.
And how video can help with bias?
Yes. One of the things that's important is sometimes people one of the bias is people think they're looking for sex all the time. But we need to teach people that not every person wants to have sex with someone and to have a sexual relationship. People just want to love each other, to support one another. And the bias is sometimes when a mom overprotect mother or overprotect their father thinks this person would take advantage of their daughter or son. And that is very frustrating for that bias because they didn't give a person a fair chance to show themselves how the person is, and they put a wall to be overprotective of their loved one. And like I said, student stories could help them to talk about build their self-confidence when someone takes advantage of them. And also being empowered to say no. Because oftentimes people are afraid to say no because people have power over them. But if you have the power to speak no, to do that. And also said respect your boundaries. Because sometimes you want people not be too close to you. What I mean with that is not just close to towards your body, but even be boundaries is not flirt with this person if the person do not like to be flirt. Because this one of the things so important. And because one of the persons I know very well, and sometimes he do not respect the person's boundaries, and even I try to educate him, and some of my other friends try to educate him about boundaries. He keep on doing it. We need to talk about boundaries when someone's really too close to you, and to be strong and be assertive. And also use different students' voices to show that no, not everyone is the same, because it's like myself, because my needs and my boundaries is very different from myself to another person. And students with IDD could learn from peers, from other students to do this, to listen to their experience, and talk about the lack of those important peer relationships. Because when I was in high school, I didn't have a lot of friends, and to build that relationship. But one of the cool things happened is that since 1996, my classmates welcomed me in, because the door was cracked a little bit at the time. But since now, the door is open all the way, and to help to build their relationship with them. Because if I have a problem or talk to someone about a problem, they are there for me.
Can you mention how Facebook helped with that?
Sure. One of the neat things, I know some people don't like Facebook and others love it. One of the neat things about the Facebook page is helping me to build my connection for my high school friends, my high school peers, and to really connect them. And since Facebook started, it helped me to reach out a lot of my classmates. Even the classmates who wasn't nice to me, I forgive them what they did. I remember 10 years ago, someone dropped the R word down to me because I'm pretty vocal about things, what's going on in life, and share my thoughts to my peers, high school peers. And one of the high school kids dropped the R word towards me. And all my classmates kind of stand up for me, say, you do not know who James is. You should sell James very short. He do things. He helped people different parts of the country. He helped inspire people with disabilities to things what he wants to do. And even 3 years ago, I got a special award. About 30 or 40 of my former students was there when I got my award to be in the Hall of Fame in my high school. And that was so important to me because they was there for me, because my family wasn't there for me. And it was great to cheer me on walking the football field with my other people who got the same award. Because not all social media pages are bad people online. They also have good people in social media who want to be your friends. Like maybe you lost contact like a best friend, or friends from your school, maybe from elementary or even middle school. And the one thing is the high school page for me, because they're in my life now. They want to know what I'm doing. They're proud of my accomplish what I do, and also to be there when I have a problem. Because sometimes let's use one example real quick. During the pandemic was that my friends didn't want me to catch the virus. They all chipped in and did like the HEB grocery delivery services to bring food to me because they didn't want me to get sick by the virus. And they helped me to do that. And I asked them how much I have to owe you to pay you back. I said, don't worry about it, James. We would take care of the groceries because we don't want you to get sick by the virus. That's true friendship. And also, we have our always have a hard time to say this quote, but like we have other people share their stories and their experience. But the really cool part was couple as a March 1st, I became a part-time employee for seeing her because I was very excited because I'm talking about my experience, my story, but the bottom line is helping others who never do what I'm doing as sexual assault survivors, and also talk about other things, how they could do things, get the opportunity to relieve themselves. Because oftentimes we don't give people a chance to do something big. And I'm very grateful for Cynthia who took the time to get to know me, and from those experiences, now I'm doing it as an employee. And I take pride in my work. I'm very, how would I say, passionate what I believe in. If anyone have any questions, just go to the microphone or Cynthia.
I just want to say, first of all, I thank James. He thanks me a lot, but I thank James. And one of the things that we're really trying to do is to help others understand how much you can learn when you just listen and just empty the stage and let someone get on there and say what they need to say. You just learn so much that you didn't know before. Anybody have any questions or comments or want to share anything about practices in your classroom, about how you can help your students with IDD, and about hopes and fears around social media and teens, because I know that's a big deal. Yes.
So I'm wondering, James, thank you very much for this wonderful advocacy, really, really important. How did this project get started? I mean, how do you start getting someone to be encouraged to talk about their story with such honesty?
Well, thank you for this great question. One of the things I decided when I was about 53, 54 years old or something like that, I look at the advocacy movement, especially the self-advocacy movement, and say, I've done a lot, I do this, and I went to a week-long trip, and I decided to go to Wyoming. I don't know why I picked Wyoming, but I went to Wyoming. And I figured long and hard, I did some soul searching, and I talked to a couple of friends who work in the field of disabilities, and also they do sexual assault stuff. And I told my friend Leanne, who I mentioned before, said, Leanne, I want to devote more life about sexual assault issues, because I felt that voice is missing and the perspective is missing. I'm happy to say that I grow from it, from doing talks once a great while to now all over the country. And Cynthia, I don't know how we met. I think because of the NPR story I did. Several years ago, NPR did a story called Abuse and Betray. And Joe Shapiro, who's one of the reporters, interviewed me, and Cynthia heard my interview, and she contacted Leanne, maybe? No, she phoned. You could do that part.
I will tell the story because it's kind of wild and it kind of proves our point here. There was a TCDD grant, and it was about sexual assault prevention and response. And I have a son with autism, so I work in this space. And I thought, gosh, I want to do something. And I happened to see the NPR video, and it mentioned that James lived in San Antonio. And I thought, this guy needs to be part of this project. And I cold emailed you. I straight up went on, the internet and found his email address and said, I want to do a grant. I don't know what we're going to do, but I want you to be part of it. And that changed both of our lives. That was 3 years ago. So It was someone at NPR saying, we need to put this person's story online. And I happened to see that story at a time when a grant was available. And, you know, James is now employee number 3 of Strategic Education Solutions. Yes, in the back. Here, let me run to you.
I wanted to say, first of all, James, thank you so much for your vulnerability and your just sharing your story with us. I think that's very important. Someone asked earlier about bias, and I know that for many, many years, you know, the society in general looked at sexual assault with little girls very differently than with little boys, or it just wasn't even considered or thought about as much. And I wanted to know if you face any bias that way, and if you see a change in societal, the way that we perceive it now. Are boys getting their fair share of attention and understanding in this situation?
I kind of feel like I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm trying my best. I feel like I am a pioneer person, because I remember as a teenager with my early sexual assault, I was too afraid. But in 2004, like I say, lightning hit me. Not the actual lightning bolt, but the old expression, lightning never hit twice. And I decided to come out and share my story, my experience. And that was a bold risk, because I never met other peers until I did the 1 in 6 video. Because the men was all different backgrounds, from a young person, a young man, to a person who was in the military. And it was very interesting. And I think more men is starting to come out, but I wish we could do more to inspire male survivors, because if we do that they don't feel so embarrassed. But one of the neat things happened to me was several years ago. I went to New Jersey for a conference, and I met a guy, I forgot his name now, but he was an attorney at the time, back in the 80s, called a young lady with Down syndrome got sexual assault. And I remember that case when I was in my 20s, like when I was about 20, 21, around that time. I have an opportunity to meet the attorney to represent her, and I have a chance to talk to him, because that was one of my questions. Is a lot of males talking about it? I said, no, James, still no males are not talking about it. I think one of the things so important is that they would feel guilty and ashamed, or just try to be Mr. Tough Guy. For me, I'm very passionate what I believe in, but we need to help others to don't feel embarrassed, and tell them that. And the other thing is not tell them it is not their fault at all, because that's the big stigma. Because they think males looking for sex. For me, I wasn't looking for sex, and that's very frustrating as a man who's 57 now. But it just makes me mad.
Any other questions? One thing I do want to mention too, there's a QR code up there, and it takes you to Self Advocate Central, which is kind of where we hold all of our information. There's a cool gap analysis framework. To say cool gap analysis framework, that really doesn't sound right, but it talks a lot about that issue and intersectionality. So disability, gender, race, ethnicity, gender identity, and how there are so many people who the more they're marginalized, the less they're speaking up about their sexual assault. So that's a plug for our cool gap analysis framework.
And if you guys want to come and talk to me after this session, that'd be great too.
I think we're bumping up against our time. I want to thank you guys so much, and of course I want to thank you, James, as always. Thanks for changing my life.